Hari Om. Anybody who would like to chant the Dhyana shlokas can raise the hand, and I would definitely request people to do that. This time I do notice that Parvati Natraj has already risen her hand. Oh, okay. I see a new person here who wants to chant today. So we will give her a chance. Geeta Vinod, please go ahead. You self-muted.
Yes. Namo Namaha.
Namo Namaha. Go ahead.
Oh. Geeta Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaധ്യായിനീം अम्ब त्वामनुसन्धदामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्थोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं लोके सज्जन षट्पदैरहरहः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद् भारत पंकजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्र रुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
धन्यवादः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ परं वरिष्ठं ब्रह्मिष्ठं परमानन्दरूपिणं परमार्थानन्दयतिं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। So, Lord Krishna continues with the presentation of a list of his vibhutis which are manifest in the world and which can serve as a symbol for practicing Vishwarupa Upasanam. So basically they are all alambanams or symbols. So the aim is to expand our mind, appreciating that the Lord is everywhere, and then go beyond this formed universe and recognize the Paraprakriti Brahman. Therefore, each description serves as a symbol for Upasana. So we actually saw up to verse 38, almost the end of the Vibhuti listing. So, Dando Damayatam Asmi Nitirasmi Jigishatam Maunam Chaivasmi Guhyanam Jnanam Jnanavatam Aham. So, we talked about Krishna identifying himself as the rod of the punishers, diplomacy of those desirous of victory, and silence among secrets, and I am the wisdom of the wise. So that's what we saw in the last class. So we had completed up to verse 38. Continuing. Yachapi sarvabhutanam bijam tadaham arjuna na tadasti vina yat syad maya bhutam characharam. Now this is an important shloka marked here for a specific reason. So now Lord Krishna concludes this list in this verse. Aham sarvabhutanam bijam asmi. Bijam means seed, literally here karanam, especially the upadana karanam, the material cause of the entire universe. So I am the material cause which alone lends existence to all the products, right? We must remember this here. It's a technical topic. Material cause alone lends existence to all the products, right? Take the example of ornaments. Gold is the material cause of all ornaments. So if all the ornaments are existing, it is only because the gold is pervading all the ornaments. So pervading all the ornaments, gold alone lends existence, right? So how do we prove it? Suppose you withdraw gold from all the ornaments. Can the ornaments exist on their own? No, right? Similarly, the wood is the material cause which pervades all the furniture, right? Now, if you withdraw the wood, will the furniture exist? No, there is no furniture without wood, right? So, therefore, how do you experience the material cause? Material cause is always experienced in the form of existence in all the products. Very important point here. Sat, right? The Sat aspect. So gold is available as existence in all ornaments. Similarly, Krishna is telling here, Brahman, the ultimate material cause, pervades the entire universe, and this pervading Brahman expresses in every object. In what form? In the form of existence. Therefore, when you say Akasha is, right, the isness of the Akasha belongs to Brahman, right? There is no such word in English, but we have to note the ease part of it. The isness of the Akasha belongs to Brahman. So when you say Vayu, right, is, the isness belongs to Brahman. Similarly, Agni is, right? When all the Panchabhutas get mixed up together, we saw in Tattva Buddha, in a particular ratio, the creation happens, etc. Right, from Sukshma Bhutani to Stula Bhutani, etc. So there also the Panchabhutas is what is giving the existence, right? So when you say the body is, the existence in the body is also Brahman, and this existence belongs to Para Prakriti or Apara Prakriti of the 7th chapter. We must remember this, that Para Prakriti is the higher nature, is the Sat principle, the existence principle. So in the 7th chapter, whatever we saw as Para Prakriti Brahman, that is what lends existence to everything in this world, right? Therefore, Lord Krishna says, I am the Moola Karanam. I alone exist in everything, right? Everything else is Karyam, nothing but Nama Rupa, right? They seem to exist, but their existence does not belong to themselves. Their existence belongs to me. Aham Sarvabhutanam Bijam Asmi Moola Karanam Asmi, right? So remembering the 6th chapter of the Chandogya Upanishad, right? Sadeva Saumya Idamagram Asit Ekameva Advitiyam. Here the Upanishad says Brahman alone, Ekameva, right, was there before in the form of pure existence. Then all the Nama Rupas came, and that Brahman alone lends existence to all of them. Bijam Tadaham, Arjuna, and therefore Maya Vina Characharam Abhutam Na Asti. Characharam, Chara Acharam, right? Nothing in this creation can exist, whether it is a living principle or a non-moving principle, moving or non-moving, right? Nothing in the creation can exist without me, who is lending existence to all, just as the gold can address all the ornaments and say, oh bangle, oh chain, oh ring, all of you are nothing but Nama Rupa. It is only gold. I am only existing, right? So when we actually, what happens is, we always say bangle has got 20 grams, 30 grams, 40 grams, etc. But remember, the bangle does not have any weight at all. It is the gold, right? So bangle is non-substantial Nama Rupa. Gold is the substance. Similarly, the entire world, this is mind-boggling. The entire world is non-substantial Nama and Rupa. And who is the substance behind this world? Bhagavan says, I am the substance. And we must remember that when Bhagavan says, I am the substance, he is talking about Para Prakriti, right? And all the other things in this world don't have easiness at all. They are all borrowed from God only. Having borrowed existence from God, right? Then we start asking the question, is there a God? Who is God? Etc. So a Vedantin, a senior student will say, who is not God or where is not God? God is everything, right? So it is an important point that we must remember. So it's like, suppose Swamiji gives this example very nicely. He says, suppose all the bangles, chains and rings have a meeting, okay? The rationalist association, right, in the world. So bangle, chain, ring. And what is the question, right? The three of them discuss, is there something called gold? Right? They are asking for a proof for gold, right? Now, suppose the bangle asks, right? How foolish should it be? So foolish is the human being who asks for the proof of God. What is God, right? What is not God, right? Is what the Vedantin would respond. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Yat characharam bhutam vina yat syat. There is nothing in the creation which can exist without me, right? Thus he started with Vibhuti. If you see in the Vibhuti Yogam, he started with consciousness principle. Vibhuti Yogam is this chapter, okay? So Para Prakriti, he started with what? Ahamatma Gudakesha Sarvabhuta Sayastitaha. He said, I am the consciousness, which is the para prakriti, right? Thereafter, he gave all the vibhutis of apara prakriti. In the beginning, para prakriti consciousness, and then the list of vibhutis, which is apara prakriti, and he concludes with para prakriti existence. So he started with consciousness and he concludes with existence. Consciousness is also para prakriti, existence is also para prakriti. In between, all glories are apara prakriti. So the first and the last are meant for advanced students. All the intermediary stages are for intermediary students. As Swamiji says, it's a good checkpoint. We can always check once in a way whether we come under the senior group or the intermediary group, right? So I am the existence, I am the consciousness in all, right? That is Bhagavan's real and ultimate glory. A very, very involved shloka. We will anyway revisit this as I'm going to summarize finally. Continuing. Nantosti mama divyanam, nantosti mama divyanam, vibhutinam parantapa, vibhutinam parantapa, eshatuteshata proktah, eshatuteshata proktah, vibhutirvistaro maya, Vibhutir Vistaro Maya. Here, Lord Krishna says, I've given a reasonably comprehensive list of my glories, both the Paraprakriti glories in the form of Sat, the existence, and Chit, and Aparaprakriti glories in the various things we experience. Right? I cannot give an exhaustive list because my glorious list can never be exhaustive. My glories are inexhaustible. So if I try to list the entire list, the 10th chapter will never end, Gita will never end, and we can go on and on, right? Therefore you will never cross this chapter at all. So therefore Lord Krishna says this is enough as a sample and it is enough for you to practice upasana. Therefore I conclude the list. He says Mama Divyanam Vibhutinam Antaha Na Asti. There is no end to the list of my extraordinary or divine glories. Anto Anasti He Parantapa. Parantapa is name of Arjuna. Oh, the winner, the ever winning warrior is Parantapa. He Parantapa. And then what is the list that Bhagavan has given? He says, Eshaha Vistaraha Vibhutehe Maya Proktaha Uddeshataha. This list, the detailed list that I've given here is just a illustrative list, right? The list that I've given from verse 19, or to be precise from 20th verse to 39th verse, the list I've presented in detail is a sample list for you to understand. Uddeshataha means an illustrative or sample list, right? Now Lord Krishna concludes. Yadyat vibhuti matsatvam, yadyat vibhuti matsatvam, Shrimadurjitameva va, Shrimadurjitameva va, Tattadevavagachatvam, Tattadevavagachatvam, Mama tejonsha sambhavam, Mama tejonsha sambhavam. So Lord Krishna says, very, very important verse. If you are not satisfied with the list that I have given you, right, I will give you a methodology by which you can build your own list, right? So he very nicely sums it up. He says, you can make a list from the current universe and also from any future universe that comes about. That is why Gita is going to stay relevant for years, centuries, ages to come. It has stayed relevant all these years. In one verse, Krishna says that whatever you experience as extraordinarily beautiful things, right? Yadyat vibhutimat. So you take it as the 7 wonders of the world, the old wonders, the new wonders, anything, right? It can be living, non-living, any extraordinary, wonderful, beautiful thing, right? Anything glorious, I am that, right? And it belongs to me. Srimad, right? Mean anything that has of extraordinary value. The Kohinoor diamond, the best possible, diamonds in the world, gems in the world, whatever, the value of anything you name, right? Anybody has a huge bungalow, whatever it is, right? A beautiful one, all of them belong to Lord only, right? So whatever they unearth, new things, right? That is why in our culture, in our tradition, we used to not keep anything extremely valuable, which we feel that it is not meant for us. We used to give it to the God. That is how the Trivandrum Padmanabha Swami Kovil, the temple, has so much wealth, right? People don't keep it. The Raja, the king does not own it. He says, this belongs to Padmanabha Swami. Our culture is like that, right? Anything extraordinary, give it to the temple, right? And it all belongs to Bhagavan, right? So Srimad means extremely valuable, expensive, and Urjitam Evava, extraordinarily powerful. Any missiles, any nuclear weapons, anything that you discover, that is all the glory of the Lord, right? So extraordinarily beautiful, extraordinarily wonderful, powerful, valuable, any of these things you find, you offer a namaskara to that. Even an extraordinarily intelligent person, a prodigy, right? We do namaskara only. Therefore, taddat eva avagachatvam. May you understand all of them are expressions of God only, right? So prodigy is also an expression of God only, right? Mama tejonsha sambhavam, a small part, right? Amsha is of my glory only, right? So if you see today, we see so many prodigies, these children whom Kuldeep Pai is training them, they sing so beautifully, and what an young age, right? All those glories belong to the Lord only, right? Any champion, any prodigy, extremely high IQs that we see, all of them belongs to the Lord only. So even when somebody has extremely intelligent children, right, you can just thank God for having given that child and move on, because it is all the glory of the God only, of the Lord, right? So everything, right? Lord Krishna gives this introduction even in the 11th chapter, right? This is the last verse which is going to come up, is going to be an introduction, a peek into the 11th chapter, right? So we are going to see the seed verse now. We will go to the last verse of this chapter. अथवा बहुनैतेन किं ज्ञातेन तवार्जुन विष्टभ्याहमिदं कृत्स्नम् एकांशेन स्थितो जगत् Ekanshena sthito jagat. Here Lord Krishna gives a totally different perspective. Until now, throughout the 10th chapter, what did Bhagavan say? Right? In all the wonderful things, my presence is there in the form of that wonderful expression. In the form of intelligent people, Bhagavan is in the form of intelligence. In the powerful people, Bhagavan is in the form of power. So the general message given is Bhagavan is in the creation, right? So what is the essence? Bhagavan is the essence in so many wonderful things. Now Lord Krishna wants to reverse the whole thing. Don't say Bhagavan is in the creation, right? Reverse it. Bhagavan is not in the creation, really speaking. The entire creation is in one infinite Bhagavan, me, right? So first we say water is in the wave, water is in the bubble, water is in the froth, right? Initially we say that. Later what do we say? Really speaking, water is not in the wave, but all the waves, all the bubbles, all the froth, the ocean, everything is existing in one water only, right? So water means all of this. Similarly, when I say Atma is in Rama, Atma is in Krishna, Atma is in this cow, Atma is in this vriksha, right? First we say Atma is in everyone. Later we reverse. It is not Atma is in everything. On the other hand, everything is one Atma only. When you say Bhagavan is in everyone, it is called Vibhuti Yoga. When you say everything is in one Bhagavan, it is called Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga. Therefore, Lord Krishna converts that Atava Kim Tava Nyatena Bahunaitena Arjuna. So he is converting it. What is the use of saying Bhagavan is in A, B, C, D, etc.? It is endless. Instead, it is better to know what Aham Stitaha Vishtabhya, supporting Idam Kritsnam Jagata Ekanshena. I am not in the world, but the entire world is resting in me. I am the Vishwadharam. Therefore, Idam Kritsnam Jagata Vishtabhya. Right? And what area of Bhagavan the world occupies? What area of, what is the extent of the world, right? We cannot even imagine. The cosmos, the galaxies, we cannot even imagine. And Krishna says, the whole world, the whole universe occupies an amsha, only a small area of me. If the whole cosmos occupies a small area, you can imagine the size of Bhagavan, right? Therefore, Bhagavan is infinite. Ekam Shena, with a small part, right? That is why in the Puranic stories, we see symbolically Bhagavan carries the entire mountain, Govardhana Giridhari, right? He carried with the fingertip. It is only a symbolic presentation to show that all galaxies are occupying only a small part of this. Also, when Yashoda asked Krishna to open the mouth and she sees the earth, right, rotating there, this is all symbolically representing that Bhagavan is so huge and can accommodate everything in him, right? So, introduction to Vishwarupa Darshana comes in this last verse, and with that, the 10th chapter is over, right? So, we will complete it and then I will give you a quick summary of the 10th chapter. Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat, Iti Shrimad Bhagavad Gitasu, Iti Shrimad Bhagavad Gitasu, Upanishadsu, Upanishadsu, Brahma Vidyayam, Brahma Vidyayam, Yoga Shastre, Yoga Shastre, Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade, Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade, Vibhuti Yogo Nama Dashamo Dhyayah, Vibhuti Yogo Nama Dashamo Dhyayah. Okay. So, in this chapter, if you see, the first three topics are more like introduction, and then there has been there were a lot of questions from Arjuna, which is the topic 4, and topic 5 is what we completed very elaborately, right? So, now a quick step back to see where we are, right? So, chapters 7 to 12 form the central portion of the Gita itself, which is dealing with majorly 3 themes. Ishvara Swarupam, nature of Ishvara, Ishvara Upasana, right? Meditation and dhyana on Ishvara, and Ishvara Prasadaha, right? The grace of the Lord. So Lord Krishna gives the foundation right in the 7th chapter itself, and all the later chapters up to the 12th chapter are built upon the foundation of the 7th chapter. Therefore, we should remember that foundation throughout these portions. Very important, right? So what were some of the key messages in the central portion, what we have seen and what is yet to come, right? So there are 3 or 4 important messages, right? So Lord Krishna has conveyed here. The first message that Bhagavan conveyed is that there are 2 aspects of Ishvara, Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. Both of them mixed together is God. So Ishvara is a mixture of Para and Apara Prakriti. And Para Prakriti we saw is nothing but consciousness principle, which does not have change, attributes and divisions. So changeless, attributeless, divisionless consciousness principle is called Paraprakriti. Aparaprakriti is the basic matter principle which is endowed with C, A and D. So the consciousness plus matter is Ishvara, and this Ishvara is Anadi or beginningless. Beginningless God is of the nature of consciousness and matter, right? Then the next important message is, very important message, God alone is the cause of the entire creation, consisting of all the Panchabhutaha, Akasha, Vayu, Prithvi, Agni, etc. Right? And all the later products originating from Panchabhutaha, Pancha Bhautika Prapancha. The whole thing is born out of Ishvara. So Ishvara as Jagat Karanam is the second message, right? And beginningless Ishvara, we must remember. The third important message is Karanam alone appears in the form of all the products or effects, such as gold alone appears as ornaments, wood alone appears as furniture. Karanam is that which appears as all the products. Therefore, Bhagavan or Ishvara alone is appearing, manifesting in the form of entire creation with different Nama Rupa. So a bangle, if you take, it is the form of gold and it is a name given to a particular form and it has a relevant function also. So Nama Rupa and Karma, this is the product. But behind the Nama Rupa, there is only one substance. So forms are many, functions are many, but substance is essentially only one. So this concept, because it is a difficult concept to grasp, Lord Krishna gradually builds up in the 7th, 8th and 9th chapters. Since Ishvara alone appears as the entire universe, the next point that Krishna says is all the glories belong. So the extraordinary glories we experience in any part of the creation, whether it is an inert thing or whether it is a sentient living being, wherever we experience any glory, that glory must belong to the original one which is behind. So therefore, Ishvara's Vibhuti, every one of them is, right? Therefore, gradually the aim of the seeker or the aim of the devotee is learn to appreciate Bhagavan, admire Bhagavan in the beautiful creation itself. Before learning this particular truth, we have got a beginning concept of God, and that concept of God must gradually change. We think what? God is a particular person like Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, Krishna, etc. So after that, we need to appreciate Bhagavan in any form around us, right? So initially, we appreciate all the Leelas, the Puranic stories, right? Where, you know, the Rakshasas are killed, the Bhaktas are rescued, etc. So Lord Krishna says you have to gradually change that attitude, right? So admiration of the world must become admiration of Ishvara. Thus gradually we should progress from, you will remember I am talking about this right from introduction to Vedanta days, from Ekarupa Bhakti to Vishwarupa Bhakti, Ishta Devata Bhakti to Vishwarupa Bhakti. So we have to transform. And for that, Lord Krishna is preparing Arjuna in the 11th chapter, right? So with this background that I just listed, we have to study the 11th chapter and see how the development comes, right? So the first three topics, as I said, are related to the introductory portion, right? So very important verses in the entire chapter comes in the first 11 verses. They are very important. They're very important in the entire Gita also, because here alone Lord Krishna says Ishvara is Karanam and Jagat is Karyam. Ishvara alone is in the form of Jagat, right? Sarvam Ishvara Mayam Jagat. There is no world separate from Ishvara, right? So even though we keep using Nama Rupas, essentially the substance of everything is Ishvara only, right? Then Lord Krishna said one should become Vishwarupa Bhakta from Ekarupa Bhakta and learn to admire the Lord in everything that he experienced. This is what we saw in the first 11 verses, right? we saw two important shlokas there, 7, 8 and then 7, 9, both of them talking about I'm the taste, and he's telling Arjuna, I'm the taste in the water, I'm the radiance in the moon, right? I am everything basically. And when you appreciate the universe, you appreciate me and my glory, right? So then we saw this is also a very important shloka, the 9th one, right? Machita Madgata Prana. And the appreciation should gradually lead to Vishwarupa Upasana, right? And so from Ekarupa Upasana, we should move to Vishwarupa Upasana. In meditation terms, from concentration meditation to expansion meditation, where we focus on the glories of the universe itself, right? And rather than getting, you go for pilgrimages, etc., temples, all of that, but rather than getting stressed about standing in queues and all of that, the gradual shift happens towards appreciating the universe itself as Ishvara, right? And when we look at the universe being a product of Ishvara, we must remember that it has two components: Para Prakriti, the higher nature, which is changeless, attributeless, and divisionless, and Apara Prakriti, which is the world, right? So, in the universe, both Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti exist, right? So, everything is changing around us, and therefore, you look for the non-changing, non-variable, constant entity. Here, actually, Swamiji gives us a way by which we can shift our attention to the non-changing, non-variable, constant entity. He says, think about it. As a child, you reflect and say, I went to school, I played in my school, I had friends, I grew up this way, etc. And then in the middle age, you say, oh, I did this, I went to office, I had a career, I had friends, I had colleagues, etc. And then you say, oh, now I'm old, I have this pain, I have. Now, Swamiji asks us to think deeply, what is really common between the three different eyes that you spoke about? The childhood eye, the middle-aged eye, and the current eye, who is, old. He says that if you actually see biologically also, the body has completely changed within few years. There is nothing constant in this body from your childhood to now, right? So essentially all the cells divide, and there are new cells and the old cells are completely replaced. So what is actually common through all this is actually only the changeless consciousness principle. So he says that is the changeless constant entity, which is the higher nature, which is present in all the living beings as well as the Ishvara, the Lord, right? So that is what he's saying. And he says it is the changeless principle in the form of existence as well as consciousness, right? Sat and Chit, right? So when a pot is broken, right, the easiness of the pot shifts from the pot to the broken pieces of the pot. The easiness continues to be there. First the pot was there, now piece is there, right? So if you powder it, then the easiness is with the powder is. Then it mingles with the earth, it becomes earth is. So the easiness or existence is the non-variable principle. It's a very, very abstract principle, but we need to start to appreciate it as our mind gets subtler and subtler, right? So, and you cannot, so you talk about easiness when you talk about external things like this, right? The pot, then the broken pot, the powdered pot, the mixed pot with the earth. We say it is earth is, powder is, etc. But when you come to your own internal, right, the body, right, within the body, what is there? The consciousness principle, right? The Sakshi Chaitanyam. So Sat outside and Chit inside, right? It is Para Prakriti. The Sat and Chit both put together are Para Prakriti, right? So it manifests as Sat existence and as Chit consciousness, right? So if a person practices Vishwarupa Upasana, right, gradually he will refine his mind, and ultimately he can go to Para Prakriti, the higher principle, the changeless principle, right? So that is called Brahma Jnanam, and that is called Aham Brahmasmi, the Advaita Jnanam, right? So this is Advaitam. Advaitam means what? Divisions, no divisions, divisionless, right? In Apara Prakriti, you can have divisions, but not in Para Prakriti. Thus, from Ekarupa Ishvara to Vishwarupa Ishvara to finally Advaita Ishvara, we have to gradually progress. So Lord Krishna says, you come to Vishwarupa, I will help you come to the final stage, right? So very important two shlokas we saw, the 10th and the 11th shloka, where he says you become a Vishwarupa Bhakta and I will help you go to Advaita Jnanam. We must remember one thing, Advaita Jnanam is not optional, it is compulsory. For moksha, Advaita Jnanam is compulsory. You can postpone Advaita Jnanam, but you cannot avoid Advaita Jnanam. So with my help, you will get this knowledge by which you will become one with me and attain moksha, right? So that's the entire journey of a bhakta from Eka Rupa to Advaita Rupa Bhakti, right? All the three stages, right? Lord Krishna talks about in the introductory 11 verses. So 10th one and 11th one, very important verses. Okay. Then we moved on to topic 4. So in topic 4, Arjuna requested for elaboration, right? From 12th to 18th verse. So Arjuna asked, some of the glories of Vishwarupa Ishvara, why don't you list, right? Because we are not able to imagine everything, right? So in this world, of course, everything is wonderful, and we actually worship. If you see the Hindu culture, we worship brahmacharis, we worship Kumara Bhojanam, we say, we worship Kanya Puja, we say, we worship everything, Dampati Puja, we say, Sadabhishekam, we do Vriddha Puja, right? In all stages, we admire the people, right? And we appreciate the people, we appreciate all the animals, the birds, everything. We do Go Puja, right? We do Gaja Puja, we do Naga Puja, etc. So with this intention, Arjuna asks for a list of glories from 12th to 18th verse, right? So in topic 5, Lord's glories he elaborates. Lord Krishna elaborates from verses 19 to 42. Glories of Apara Prakriti, right? So from the 19th verse up to 41st verse, Lord Krishna gives a list of his glories. So I just put them together in this form because he talks about mountains, rivers, winds, etc. Right? So he gives a list of them. He talks about a lot of Puranic stories. We saw references, Samudra Matanam, Ganga Avataranam, right? So based on the Purana, so many things, right? And Stavaranam Himalayaha, Ashwattaha Sarva Vrikshanam, tree is taken among rivers. Do you remember? He said, I am Ganga, right? So anything you choose as a symbol of Ishvara. Among the Vedas, he said, I am Samaveda, Vedanam Samavedosmi, right? And among the mantras, he chose Gayatri mantra, considered to be the most sacred, right? Which serves as twofold purpose. One is dosha apanayanam, removing the dosha also, and adding virtues also. In fact, Gayatri is prescribed as prayachitam for all violations that we regularly commit, right? So whatever guilt we have, mistakes you do, we normally remove the guilt by appropriate prayachitam, and for that Gayatri Japa is prescribed 108 times, 1008 times, etc. And I also talked about Smartha Gayatri, and I did list it. I showed you the Smartha Gayatri also, which everybody can chant, even the ones who are not initiated. The uninitiated ones can also chant Smartha Gayatri. So by regularly chanting, we can increase the punya, which will help in spiritual growth. Therefore, among Vedic mantras, Gayatri mantra Krishna chose, right? And among Vedic words, he chooses what? You remember Omkara, right? Vedic word is this word which is used during rituals. Omkara Upasana was also prescribed. It's a very big upasana. It is used in Vedanta also. And by Omkara Vichara, we can arrive at Brahman. I think I mentioned Mandukya Upanishad. In Mandukya Upanishad, we have a method by which we can, we can negate, we can discern the different Sharira Trayam, the 3 layers, and then move on to Brahman using Omkara, and then the silence between 2 Oms, right? I spoke about it. Then among the alphabetic letters, he chose Akara, Aksharanam Akarosmi, right? And then he also spoke about so many other glories, right? One big list he gave, and most of these glories are the glories of Apara Prakriti also. Lord Krishna gives an exhaustive list that we saw, which I just grouped under these 3 points here so that it will be easy for you to remember, right? Then Lord's glories was elaborated also in the form of Para Prakriti. Like Apara Prakriti, there was Para Prakriti glory also explained in the form of Sat and Chit, right? We saw that. So Lord Krishna wanted to mention Sat and Chit and 2 glories of Para Prakriti, right? And many glories of Apara Prakriti he covered, right? So he talks about Para Prakriti in verse 20 and verse 39. I just mentioned in the beginning of the class. In the 20th verse, Para Prakriti is described as consciousness principle. In the 39th shloka, Para Prakriti is described as existence principle, right? So, Ahamatma Gudakesha Sarvabhuta Shayastitaha Ahamadishcha Madhyamcha Bhutanam Anta Evacha, right? So here consciousness principle is talked about, right? Of all the beings, right? And then here if you see the existence principle is talked about, right? Yachapi sarva bhutana, which we saw today, right? And here Krishna talks about consciousness, and it is worthwhile visiting our 5 features of consciousness because we've not done it in a long time. So if you remember, in introduction to Vedanta, this was introduced, right? Consciousness is not a part, product, or property of the body. Consciousness is an invisible and independent entity which pervades the body and makes it alive. This invisible independent consciousness is not limited by the boundaries of the body, right? In fact, it continues to survive even after the body medium dies, perishes, or is destroyed. And after death, the surviving consciousness is not available for transaction, not because it is not present, but because the medium of transaction is absent, right? We saw this. Now, if you just replace the word, right, consciousness with existence, right? You can try, right? You can say, suppose, I have a webcam here. You say, this webcam is existing here, right? So the existence is not a part, product, or property of the webcam. Existence is an independent principle which pervades and makes the webcam existent, right? So existence is not limited by the boundaries of the webcam. So you can extend like this. The surviving pure existence is beyond all transactions. This Sat-Chit is called Para Prakriti. So Lord Krishna will focus on this Para Prakriti from the 13th chapter onwards. Assume that time our intellect has become subtler, sharper in order to grasp this, right? Because this is a very subtle knowledge, right? Then finally, in verse 42, right, you see, since Krishna is going to talk about Para Prakriti in the 12th as well as the 13th chapter, we will gradually move on there, right? So before that, Krishna wants us to get into the next chapter, which is going to be the Vishwarupa Yoga, as I said, right? Instead of saying all the glories belong to Ishvara only, it is just reversed and said everything in this world, right? It is only I who is existing as the world itself. I am appearing as the universe, right? And so that is what we are going to see in Vishwarupa, Vishwarupa Ishvara description. Very soon we are going to enter. From the next class we will see that, right? So I am the Adharam, right, of the entire universe. That is the concept that is going to be spoken about. The whole creation is one Bhagavan, Vishwadharam Gagana Sadrisham. And when you appreciate the whole creation in one Bhagavan, it becomes Vishwarupa Darshanam, which Lord Krishna is going to elaborate in the 11th chapter. And as I said, the 42nd verse happens to be a seed verse itself, right, for the 11th chapter, right? So Vishtabhya means supporting or Adhara, right? As I said, so Vishwadharam, Gagana Sadrisham, we see, right? So that Adhara. So Bhagavan is the Adhara. So that's why in the Purana also, as I said, we see so many stories where this is time and again emphasized through different illustrations, right? So Bhagavan is infinite, right? So in order to teach a beginner, all these illustrations are there, like Govardhana Giridhari and the Krishna opening the mouth, etc. Right? So this is the with this introduction, the 10th chapter ends, and then we have to enter into the 11th chapter, right? So in this chapter, just a brief introduction into the 11th chapter. The chapter is titled Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga. It's an important one. It's dealing with the topic of Vishwarupa Ishvara, right? During Avataram, Bhagavan assumes different forms according to the situation. So Krishna says in the 4th chapter, hey Arjuna, I am omniscient, omnipotent Lord with infinite power of Maya. So with the help of my power, I can assume any form as I desire, right? So hence every avatara is considered to be the manifestation of the Lord in that specific form. In Rama Avataram, Bhagavan becomes what? Rama Rupa Ishvara. In Krishna Avataram, Krishna Rupa Ishvara. So Bhagavan has the capacity to appear in any form. So if you extend the same principle, the whole universe itself is an avatara of the Lord. So the Bhagavan alone appears in the form of the universe. Therefore, the whole universe should be appreciated as the appearance of the Lord. So every time the creation emerges from the Lord, Lord alone appears in the form of creation. Hence, creation must be taken as manifestation of the Lord, just like another avatara. The universe must be seen as the manifestation of the Lord in Vishwarupam. So when you see the universe merely as universe, it is Vishwa Darshanam. When you look upon the same manifestation of the Lord, then it is Vishwarupa Ishvara Darshanam. Thus, you look at the world in two different forms or angle. Every object can be seen as the Lord's Vishwarupa Darshanam, right? For this particular vision, very important point, Bhagavan has started developing the idea from the 7th chapter onwards. Therefore, in all our scriptures, Vishwarupa Varnanam, right, is always the description of the universe, right? One should clearly understand this. In the Upanishads, the Vishwarupa Ishvara is described as the very cosmos itself. In the Mundaka Upanishad, in Purusha Suktam, right? Everywhere the Vishwarupa is described as, oh, the upper sky is the head of the Lord, the sun and the moon are the eyes of the Lord, the 10 directions are the ears, and all the words in general are the mouth or the speech of the Lord. All that moves about is the breath or prana of the Lord. The very earth is the feet of the Lord. So likewise, descriptions are found in Smriti, Bhagavatam, Rudram, Puranas, etc. So what is this extraordinary nature of this Vishwarupa Ishvara? First, this is available all the time. Very important. It is available all the time. Secondly, it is available at all places. One need not wait to do any special tapas. It is available effortlessly, and therefore there is no fear of separation. Therefore, Lord Krishna recommends Vishwarupa Darshanam as the greatest Ishvara Darshanam. We miss that Darshanam. Why? Because we do not have the appropriate bhavana. The problem is in our mind. The obstacle lies in ahankara and mamakara. So Krishna says, remove the ahankara and mamakara, hand over the body and everything to Vishwarupa Ishvara and change your bhavana. After this inner renunciation, you get a special bhavana which is called Divya Chakshuhu, the divine eye in the 11th chapter, right? So once you remove the ahankara and mamakara, you get the Divya Chakshuhu, right? The I am backed by a clean mind. I am. It is backed by a clean mind, not having ahankara and mamakara. So with this background, we will enter the 11th chapter next week, right? So I don't want to start the new chapter now. We just have some more minutes to go. So we'll stop here and then we'll take some questions. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Before I take the questions, I just wanted to make a small announcement. Since I'm going to be starting 11th chapter in the next class, very importantly, 11th chapter has a set of shlokas from 1136 to 1144, right? They are called Rakshognaha Shlokaha, right? And these shlokas are very beautiful. This is Arjuna's, he is so surprised and awestruck, and these three verses flow from his mouth immediately after the Vishwa, or during the Vishwarupa Darshanam, or just after the at that time. So if we get by heart these verses, it is very, very useful. And in fact, for children also, it is very useful. They say in tradition that it prevents, it protects one, and it also prevents evil forces from impacting a person. So I just thought, just after Dhyana Shloka, we can chant these 9 verses also. So people interested in chanting, I request you to join by 8:20, because 8:20 to 8:25 we will do Dhyana Shloka, and immediately after that we will do Rakshognaha Shlokaha, so that all of us can try and get by heart at least by the time we complete the 11th chapter, right? So I will put up the slides also on the website itself. Okay, now there is some, yeah, there's a question here. Yes. There's a question on Om Bhurbhuva. Can it be chanted by everyone, or is it limited only to those who are initiated? As I said, the Karmakanda portion of the Vedas is quite strict about who can do what, and therefore it is very clear that only people who are initiated, right? It is not women, men, only people who are initiated chant the Gayatri mantra. But there is a Smartha Gayatri mantra, which I did mention in the last class, and I've also put down the verse in the slide, which anybody can definitely chant, right? So I hope that clarifies. And the other question was on, can you please elaborate on Advaita? I think the entire course is meant for that, but today I tried to explain a little bit there. But if you want to have a quick revision of this, in Introduction to Vedanta, I have done a session, I think it's a session 9 on Jiva Ishvara Aikyam, and there you would understand what Advaitam is, right? So Brahman Ekameva Advitiyam, when Brahman is one, that is actually Advaitam, but I'm simplifying, oversimplifying it. So I would request you to look at sessions 9, Introduction to Vedanta. In Gita also, we will be doing a lot in the coming chapters. Can you chant the Smartha Gayatri once? Yeah, I have to open this, right? I will just previous set of slides. Just give me, let me see if there are any other questions. Yeah, there is a question here. Mohana, I think you're self-muted. Go on.
Namaskaram, Mahodaya.
Namaskar.
Okay, I have one question, recurring question. If we are consciousness, this consciousness pervades in all of us, okay? So why do we have all the sexual discrimination? Men cannot chant this, women cannot chant this. After all, we are the Atman. We are a part of that great consciousness that pervades in all of us. So why that sex discrimination? And then you told me about, we have Brahmacharya Puja, Kanya Puja, this Puja, that Puja. But once you become a widow, there's such a distinction. There's no special place for us. I have been discriminated so much in India when I've traveled, when my husband passed. So I feel I want to understand it, why people discriminate. They don't call you for this. You are discriminated subtly, even the educated man. My husband has passed does not mean I'm unmarried. I'm still married to him. To me, he lives. I'm not unmarried, right?
No.
And then I have no special place. I want something special also for myself. But I'm just saying, this is.
Okay. See, the response to this is, in the Vedanta plane, none of these apply. Okay. When we are looking at Atma and we are in binary format, as Swamiji says, right? In the triangular format, we have Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. When this Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara comes, everything comes, like Vedic rituals, the discrimination, the gender differences, all of that. And every ritual has its own, set of logic, all of that applies. But once you get into binary format, that is, I am Atma, everything else is Anatma, right? And I am claiming my higher self. All of these are trivial and it is not required at all, right? So, but the journey to get there, to this realization, this Jnana Marga is an ardent one and it takes time for us to cross. And while crossing, Karma Kanda is a way of purifying one's body, because through various Vedic rituals, you start feeling that these are all trivial and we should not be doing this or that. That's why if you see in ashrams, there is no differentiation at all of the point that you brought up here. There is no difference in ashram, right? Because there, in the sannyasa ashram, and where the sannyasis are there and where their pursuit is Vedanta, right? It is totally different. So I hope that I was able to at least give you some partial answer. Otherwise, definitely write to me. I will respond to you in detail. Okay. Now I'm just going to pull up the Smartha Gayatri 1 second, because it was there in the last class. This is the one. 1 second. Yeah, this is there on slide 15 of class 66. Okay. So, yo devah savitasmakam dhiyo dharmadi gocharaha prerayet tasya yad bhargaha tam varenyam upasmahe. I hope I've been able to respond to you, Geeta. I think it was Geeta, right? I'm just checking that. Yes. Okay. Anybody else has any other questions? So you can note this down, or please download the PowerPoint from the site. It is there in the slide 15. Any other, anybody else has a question here? Just trying to see. Oh yeah, Mohana has another question. 1 second. Go ahead, Mohana.
Sorry, one quick question. When you say you have to be initiated, is it to be a particular guru or something to be initiated, or anybody, like you go and get somebody to initiate you? Is it like, can a priest initiate you? Can you go to the temple?
Correct. It's a Brahmopavita ceremony itself. So
Okay.
it's normally done in a very young age, right? I understand that some parts of, I don't know where it was practiced, they used to actually have Brahmopavita ceremony for the ladies also. So what Swamiji normally tells us that if you have not been initiated into the Gayatri mantra, don't be hung up on that Gayatri mantra. Either you start Smartha Gayatri, that also he's very simple and straight. He says, just go sit in front of your God in your puja room and say, from today I'm going to chant 108 times, and you chant, that's all. And after that, rest of the day also you can chant. But that 108 times sitting in the puja room with your mind focused on that mantra is important, he says.
Okay, what about people who are Dikshas? Like I have taken Diksha from Ramakrishna, my Guru is Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, and we have been taken Diksha from the ashram. Does that mantra replace everything, or that is separate and this is separate?
It's any mantra is okay. There is no hard and fast rule that you have to follow only Smartha Gayatri or you have to have a Ishtadevata mantra. Anything is okay. The important thing that Swamiji says is whatever be the mantra or the japa that you take, you make sure that you sit in a place, bring your mind and attention to it and chant 108 times at least, and every day regularly. He advises same place, same time every day, at least until it becomes a habit.
Thank you so very much.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. So next week we will, there are some more questions. 1 second, sorry. Yeah. Veena, go ahead. You're self-muted.
Ma'am, good evening, ma'am. Veena from Bangalore.
Good evening.
I started reading Bhagavad Gita from past 6 months. From one of the satsang I'm attending. Here, Guruji from the Vivekananda Yoga Institute is preaching us. And I'm very delighted to listen to you as well. Blessed. I feel blessed to listen to all the from Vyoma this institute. So I wanted to thank you, and there is a question regarding this Gayatri mantra, whatever you have just explained. So could you please tell the meaning of the same, and as another ma'am asked, like why can't it be chanted by women? Why the restriction is so?
So in general, anything that belongs to Karma Kanda portion of the Veda, okay, promises you certain results if certain things are done in a certain way. So none of those we can question if we believe in the Vedas. If we don't believe in the Vedas, then we don't believe in Veda Purva Bhaga, we don't believe in Veda Anta Bhaga. But if we believe, we have to necessarily follow the rules. And the rules say that only people who have been initiated through a Brahma Pavita ceremony can chant that. Okay? So that is the important thing. The meanings are actually given. Why don't you go back to the last class and play the recording again? You will get the meaning. I covered the meaning of the Gayatri mantra itself in detail. Okay.
Ma'am, I'm not able to find the last class. I mean, where to go? I'm not able to get. Could anybody help me with the stuff? How to go and
drop a mail to Sanskrit from home.in. Help you.
Madam, namaste, madam.
Yeah,
Namaste.
yes, sir.
While downloading chapter 10 from shloka 24, I got into a problem. It says access is denied. Google Drive access is denied. This was not faced when I downloaded the earlier parts. That is, earlier parts means chapter 10 or before that. But now you get the permission from the person who has uploaded. Like that, especially 24 to 40 shlokas in this chapter 10, this access denied, like this comes. So I don't know that you have to release that.
We'll check that, huh?
Ah,
Definitely we'll check that. Okay.
yeah, okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing it up. Okay.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So Veena, you can send a note to sanskritfromhome.in. We'll definitely help you out. Okay. Okay. There are, I think, no other questions. So we'll stop here. And next week, please remember that we will be starting 5 more minutes earlier. So 8:20 we will start. Okay. Thank you very much.